moving is difficult. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, it is difficult. And I think a lot of people, before they come to the UAE, they don't realize how there's a very big list of things that you need to do, which is, we're going through that right now. Like, I have a few candidates right now that are relocating from other parts of the world, even all this conflict stuff now that's going on. And the list is very long. Well, you need to get this sorted, this sorted, this sorted. And it can feel very overwhelming.
I think, honestly, that relocation experience, like you said, people usually think about it from an international to the UAE experience. But even within the UAE, like if you're moving from emirate to emirate, there's still that experience. And a lot of times what people find is like their employers are able to help them with that temporary housing when they first arrive. But then that after experience of, okay, where do I go from here?
Hey there, listeners. Can you believe it? We're already on season 4 of the Alchemy Uncensored podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got one quick favor to ask. I'm sure anyone that listens to podcasts will know what I'm about to ask. But if you've been loving the journey so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode, especially as we keep leveling up this season. And while you're at it, why not leave us a review? Your feedback has been a huge part of what's gotten us to season 4, and it helps us keep bringing you the content you love. And of course, one more thing. If you're feeling extra generous, share this episode with a friend who'd love to hear it. Let's grow this amazing community together. And all right, that's it for now. So let's get straight into the show. Thank you.
Welcome back to Alchemy Uncensored podcast. It's incredible that we're already in our 4th season, and we're excited to continue bringing you honest conversations, fresh perspectives, and valuable insights from leaders across the UAE. I'm Weam Kamel, partner at Alchemy Search. And before we dive into today's conversation, we're excited to announce our partnership with Al-An, the Middle East leading corporate card and expense management platform. Al-An helps companies eliminate petty cash, reimbursements, and manual reconciliations by automating expense tracking, approvals, and accounting, so finance teams get more control and visibility without the manual work. Today's episode features Amro, Osman, and Leila Gaafar. Amro leads Neuk as co-founder and CEO with a background spanning energy policy and climate change, including work with the government of Canada and leading global consultancies. He is a lifelong real estate fanatic who spent years away from the sector he loved, with founding Neuk as his way back. Leila leads marketing and communications, working across comms, product, and brand development. Her background spans marketing, paid media, strategy and insights, branding and design with an entrepreneurial journey, and a decade of experience building brands across the creative industries. So, welcome to our episode. How are you guys doing?
Thanks for having us.
Good to have you. We made it, but the heat is not okay here.
It's unacceptable.
Bearable.
So far. Let's see. It's just the beginning.
Summer is here in the UAE. Everybody can feel it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tough few months now.
Yeah.
I think today the weather is supposed to be like 40 or 43 degrees or something like that.
Which means a solid 52 in your car, probably.
Yeah, literally. But we made it. And I'm really excited for today's podcast because I know we were meant to do this and we spoke about it a lot over the last few months, and we're finally here. And I think it's going to be really helpful because we have a lot of people that are either outside the region or inside the region that can use a lot of the tips and the tricks that we're going to be talking about today, hopefully, and give people a lot of information about some things that maybe they haven't thought about, right? And a really big topic that we're going to talk about today, obviously, is Neuk and, all the services that you guys provide and how you can help people that are potentially relocating. And I think for us as a business and recruitment, we're always dealing with people relocating either outside the region or intercity relocations and things like that. And it's a complicated process, that's for sure. So I think that it's going to be really helpful for them to understand some of the stuff that you guys do. And with that, I guess, let's start off, with the first question, which is just around what is Neuk and how it came about and the story behind it and why it became Neuk, let's say.
So first off, I like the fact that you pronounce it in the right way because I feel like to spend some time on the name because usually it's misspelled and it's mispronounced. So it's spelled Neuk, pronounced Neuk. And if you know what a Neuk is it's essentially a place where you find comfort in your home.
A little corner.
Exactly. And so the saying goes is, find your Neuk. So funny story, how it started. So it was about 2 years ago. I was, working a normal job in consulting, long hours. I went to my nephew's birthday and I met a guy there. That guy ended up being the co-founder. And then we just started talking about how we were passionate about real estate and how real estate is such a wealth generating asset class and how complex the process is and how it shouldn't be this way. So it got us thinking of, what solutions could we develop that could potentially address this complexity that people are seeing in the market. So the first thing that we thought about was an auction platform. Essentially, the mission was looking at giving people control of their real estate journey. So the first thing that we thought of is if we have an auction platform where you are the owner of a property and you just list it on a platform and you can determine the minimum maximum price and people place offers, that gives you control and that gives the person negotiating power as well. So we kind of mapped it out. We started speaking to different people about Neuk and what Neuk is about and the auction platform. And what we discovered soon enough was that usually with startups is you have something in theory. And then as soon as you go out to the market and you start kind of testing it out, you realize that you need to pivot a little bit in terms of your approach.
Yeah, you fall down a lot and you have to keep like readjusting and redirecting. Yeah.
Exactly. So we went back and we, did research and we mapped out the entire process end to end. So everything from looking for an area that you want to live in to actually looking at listings and then all the way to the transaction and then post-transaction services. And what we realized was, there's a lot of supply, there's a lot of listings on the platform. So it's not really a listing issue or a supply issue. It's more of a decision-making issue. So how do you give people control of that journey? And so what we started doing is we started thinking about, okay, we need to develop a solution that gives people that empowerment, that decision-making power without complicating the process. So we developed what we call Sophia, which is an AI agent. And before you roll your eyes, it's not another AI platform.
All the buzzwords these days, right?
How to use them, but you can perfect them, I think.
Yeah.
There's better ways of using them these days.
Exactly. So, but what it was is we're not reinventing the wheel. It's a platform that uses the most advanced LLM models. And we just add to that data about the market. So live data that feeds our platform. And what this allows you to do, it gives it a lot more context. And to add to that, we added something called an agentic layer. So what that agentic layer is, it's a layer that allows you to take actions. So if you want to avail moving services, you can just say, I want moving services, and it's done. I want cleaning services. I want legal services. And then we developed it such that it guides you through the process. So it kind of handholds you through the process. So I don't know how many platforms that you've gone through, but our platform is trained on so many different use cases. And the use case is, I want to buy, what can I afford? What are the number of rooms that I want? What are your preferences? Okay, I need a mortgage pre-approval before I go into the actual shortlisting the properties. So then we started seeing a lot more traction on the platform, started seeing people inquire. And one thing that we noticed is there was a certain pattern of the individuals that availed our service. And those were people that were relocating to the UAE. So people that have just been hired and they're moving into the UAE and they're trying to figure everything out at the same time.
How has your experience been though, relocating? Like, do you think that fueled kind of some of the ideas maybe?
I was born and raised here. So that relocation wasn't something that I experienced firsthand. However, in kind of, my corporate job, I did see people struggle with it big time, especially people that are in the region for the first time. It's like, okay, how do I navigate looking at areas that I want to live? How do I navigate the schools that I want to go to? How do I navigate the payment structure? No one understands that, here, unlike Europe and North America, you have, one check, two check, especially in the market where you can't pay your monthly installments. So these are all things that...
This is changing now though, right? I've seen like something that was released where they're now going to allow month by month basis. I don't know. Is that true or is that far from happening or what do you think?
You're ahead of the game, and I was going to mention that because that's something that we're working on. But there are solutions coming up to help people manage that element because again, especially now with the increase in people moving to the UAE, there's going to be a lot of housing demand, and not many people have 100,000 in the bank to just splurge on a property.
Yeah,
especially when you're moving here for the first time.
It's an interesting business because whenever I first started talking to you guys, I felt like it was more than just what you just described, like as in just a real estate kind of business or a listing business. It was way more than that, right? It's a service that you provide to people, to corporates as well, which is a really big part of why we are all here in the UAE, right? Like a lot of people that move to the UAE, they move because of the corporates that they're joining. You were talking about relocation and, we see that as well in the market happening a lot, but then not just people coming from outside of the UAE, there's also moving within the UAE or moving from other GCC countries to the UAE. And I think moving is difficult. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, it is difficult. And I think a lot of people, before they come to the UAE, they don't realize how there's a very big list of things that you need to do, which is, we're going through that right now. Like I have a few candidates right now that are relocating from other parts of the world, even all this conflict stuff now that's going on. And the list is very long. Well, you need to get this sorted, this sorted, this sorted. And it can feel very overwhelming.
Yeah, I think honestly that relocation experience, like you said, people usually think about it from an international to the UAE experience, but even within the UAE, like if you're moving from emirate to emirate, there's still that experience. And a lot of times what people find is like their employers are able to help them with that temporary housing when they first arrive, but then that after
Then
experience
what?
of, okay, where do I go from here?
And usually, by the way, that time is like, it's not that long. It's like
No.
14 days or like 3 weeks or 4 weeks at maximum for some of
Yeah.
the best businesses, right? Is that
Exactly.
even enough time like for someone to do everything?
I think it's barely enough time to
Yeah.
get to know the place that you're living in and the place that you've moved to. And you're also going to work, right? So you're already starting your job, which is new. You're basically starting this entirely new chapter of your life. And at the same time, you have to find what your forever home or, kind of the long-term space that you're going to live in. And there's, like you said, such a long list of things that people have to think about, whether that's the community feel that they're living in, whether that's the area that they can actually afford and the things that come with that, including not just the cost of the unit or the property, but it's also the fees that come along with that, the utility costs that come along with that. If you have a family, you have to think about schools that are in the area. You have to think about like the supermarkets that are nearby. You have to think about, are there parks for the kids? Like there's so many different pieces, and it's not easy to connect all of those right
Yeah,
now.
especially if you don't know these things, right? Sometimes
Exactly.
whenever you've lived here, you kind of have, like I can tell you a few communities off the top of my head. If it's like, oh, a family, we have that discussion as well with candidates, right? Like they ask us directly about, where do you think I should go? And for someone that's single, it's very different to someone that has a family, different to a couple or a young family or an older family, when it comes to the ages of the kids.
Yeah.
And we get these questions all the time. And it's really difficult because you're not in their shoes. You don't really understand, how to answer these questions from that perspective. And I guess it begs the question mark around, what are corporates doing for these people, right? That are relocating, and, how you see that kind of developing maybe within the corporate world, within companies. Is it as advanced as it should be? You've got a corporate like program as well. Tell me about that.
So the corporate program again was, once we started seeing kind of traction on our platform, the profile of people was the same. People relocating to the UAE needed to navigate all these different questions, and these aren't necessarily difficult questions to solve. Especially, I mean, you've lived here for a while, so it's simple. The small things, the small tips and tricks that helps. So then when we started seeing that traction, and I'm at firsthand, I experienced being in corporate and having people come and ask me questions about where should I live, where should I go, where should I do this and that. We decided to develop a corporate housing program. And what this is essentially, we are partnering with organizations, and we sit within the organization. And what we do is we are essentially their housing, and you could call us lifestyle support arm. And I do want to mention that when people hear the name, it can be misleading a little bit, because they think of corporate housing as only applies to organizations that actually provide allowances for housing. But we are not that. We operate both. So we can help, even if the employer doesn't provide housing, we can also support. So it's a service that is kind of there for corporates to tell their employees that it's available for you to support.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always like to say housing and living or home and living with Neuk, because the service definitely goes beyond just housing. And so I think, there's definitely a misconception around the corporate housing program, when in reality, it's more of just like a housing and living program for employees.
Lifestyle, everything around
Exactly.
the home.
Everything to do
that
with
you need to settle.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond home.
There's I think 4 different main components of the program. First component is that you have a dedicated housing advisor. Basically, that is a person that is dedicated to the employees to ask any questions they have. So it starts all the way upstream before they even come into the country, to identify kind of their needs. So like you said, is what communities that they want to live in, what kind of schools they want to go to, how far they want to live from the office. And I'll talk about another component, which is very important, shortlisting properties. So basically hand-holding you up until you move in and you're settled. So that's one component. The second component is something that we call the living and housing report. That's something that we're seeing huge amounts of demand for. And that's essentially a report. The moment you're relocating, the first thing you think about is, okay, so how far do I want to be from my office At the same time, I want to understand the profile of different areas. So if you think of the office being the main point that you're looking for, you identify different zones. Each zone has a certain profile. So profile includes how much you pay for rent. It would include schooling in that area. It would include the commuting costs. So these are all information that someone needs before they kind of move.
Data.
Yeah, data. And also for employers, it also gives them an understanding of, okay, well, this is what the housing market, what are people's pain points when it comes to housing? Like if I ask you, what is your biggest cost? And I'm hoping you say you have the right answer. It's housing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the second component. The third component is we have something called Beyond the Keys. And Beyond the Keys is offer module that has several different offers to do with the relocation journey. And we're constantly adding more services or adding more offers. And it's things like furnishing. It's things like getting discounts on preschool, getting discounts on appliances. And we're constantly developing that service so that these are services that you avail once you're relocating. And then the fourth thing is tools. So these tools are tools as simple as, I need help with moving. I need help with cleaning. I need help with
maintenance, maybe.
Maintenance.
Legal guidance, even like setup of the home
Okay.
internet in your home. So again, like you said, it's kind of like the ongoing journey of what it looks like to be in your home. And I think, like you said, the reason that those pieces all come together is because people don't often find that guidance, especially coming from abroad or even moving from emirate to emirate. So you'll see that on the platform that like those things were particularly important to us. One, because we knew the experience, but I think also because of our conversations with people in the community and kind of them talking to us about their needs, that we realized all of these services are actually part of that same journey.
Yeah.
When people don't necessarily think of it that way, probably.
If someone was like relocating right now and they're thinking, right, I need to start my, relocation, etc. And we see that happening a lot. Like a lot of the offers that we've got where you've got someone that's outside the region, it's very sensitive. It's a big decision to make to relocate, right? And, a lot of times we see that there is a gap sometimes between what is available or what the company gives to, that person as well. So where have you seen like people relocating, like some of the biggest pain points, let's say? I know there's like a lot that goes around it, but where do you see like the biggest pain points for those people? And what should they be looking out for if they're going to be thinking, I want to make a move to the region?
I think, to be honest, it's a lot of the things that we already talked about, like that finding a home is obviously going to be your biggest pain point. Within that experience, it's usually just a lack of knowledge. I don't think that it's a lack of supply in the country. I don't think there's a lack of properties to be found or homes to live in, but there's definitely a lack of knowledge and understanding of where should I go to do one certain thing. So the relocation experience, like you said, you're going to get...
It also feels siloed, right? Like you go there to do this, you go there to do this, you go there to do this. And it's like,
yes.
Can't I just go somewhere where everything is together so that I don't have to go to multiple places?
Yeah. And the thing is, I think people don't realize that that's where the issue is. They don't realize that kind of like, oh, okay, it's the fragmented nature of that experience that's making it more difficult. And so you'll see people relocating, and like you said, they have 14 days to find a home or 30 days even from a great company. And what happens in that time is a lot of times people end up extending that short-term stay as well, because they're just like, I haven't found what I'm looking for yet. And that the reason they haven't found what they're looking for is because of these things being so siloed. And like, you may find a home, but then you're like, okay, now I need to figure out if that community is the right place. And you may find the right community, and then you say, okay, but the commute from my office may not be the right thing. And you may speak to the landlord, and then you're like, oh, but is that the right, like, does the contract make sense? Now I need to speak to a lawyer, for example. I need to understand real estate law better. Once you move in, then it's like, okay, I need to furnish my home. I need to understand what is the best way to do that. What does my internet look like? What does my phone look like? Do I need to, like, there's so many moving parts to living that we don't consider for. And like you said, it's that siloed bit that we're really trying to solve with Neuk. And that's why you'll see, like I said, like all of these services in one place, whether it's moving, relocating, cleaning, home internet setup, everything should be in one place, because I don't want the headache when I'm relocating. I already have the stress of moving myself, potentially moving my family. I don't want to also have a headache of like, I have to figure out
new
everything.
country, new job, new company,
new friends,
new everything.
Community. It's just like the whole, you're doing so much change that it would be nice to have just at least some security in that journey and that experience, I think.
Yeah. You've partnered recently as well with a lot of like different corporates as well across the UAE. What are some of the stories like you have seen probably from the time that you've built Nook until today, and some of the things that you've seen where it makes you feel like, oh yeah, like this is exactly why we wanted to do this to begin with.
I think Leila remembers this, but I got really excited when we got our first request from corporate. And actually, it wasn't to do with relocation. It was something much simpler. We had someone from one of the corporates that came to us, and his landlord slapped him with, I think, 12% increase in his rent. You know, he wanted to understand if we could help him negotiate. And our solution was quite simple. It was just, check the Dubai rental index. We helped him check it based on his contract and the details, and he wasn't eligible for an increase. And all he had to do was tell the landlord, "You're not eligible to increase my rent." It's very small.
Yeah.
But the fact that you made that person realize his rights, like, because I'm not going to say if it wasn't for us, but in a normal world, what he would do is just pay it and move on. I think that moment where you're educating and you're empowering people to understand.
So does this mean that you're constantly, with corporates, that means that you're constantly involved with them, even after, through renewals and things like that, so you can help out their employees basically all the time?
Every step of the way. And I think as much as we say that there is like an AI at the core of everything that we do, for example, this journey of like asking for legal advice can be entirely done through Sophia, the AI. From beginning to end, you can ask her for legal advice. She would connect you with our legal partners. They would give you that free consultation, explain to you what you need to do, and you'd go from there. But I think we're also not naive enough to think that everything can be done in an automated digital way. And that's why they always have access to the Neuk team. They always have access to a human being that can support them beyond what just the platform.
Because that sometimes is annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because like you're like just messaging an AI agent is like, I just want to talk to someone because I can't explain to you what I'm going through. I just need someone to get me.
Exactly.
Not trying to brag, but you should try our AI agent. You'll be surprised about how smart it is.
Again, I think because she was taught very well by the humans.
I'm very, I don't know what is the word, but I'm always reluctant with AI. Like I'm not 100% there. Because I think a lot of people are, right? Like they're very careful with it. They look at it from a different lens. And I know it's here and I use it. It's not like I just don't trust it fully. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So there's one thing that I need to mention about Neuk and how we built Neuk is privacy aspect. And that's something that the traditional model fails to address. Right now, there's a lot of fear around if you go online and you click, "I'm interested," and then you put your number, that's a game over. Your numbers are distributed. You're going to get calls from people you barely know, and you're going to be overwhelmed. So, like, I see the concerns of AI, but the privacy aspect of our platform takes the pressure off you. So if you think someone that's new to UAE and doesn't want that pressure just wants to explore what it means to buy property, what can I afford? Just have a conversation with someone that has the context of the market without any pressure to take any action. And I think that's an important element of how we built the AI and how we built the platform. You are in control of who you share your data with and how you want them to contact you. So you could say, "I don't want them to contact me via email. I don't want them to contact me via phone. I don't want to be contacted at all."
Yeah, I think that was actually a big part of, Amro talked about kind of the evolution of what Neuk was at the beginning and what it is now, but that's kind of a through point that's still relevant today. Is a big part of what we wanted from the platform was that you are not required to share your information with anyone. You're not required to WhatsApp an agent to get what you need. There is a messaging platform directly through Neuk so that you avoid kind of like the fear of, okay, I'm going to speak to one person and now I'm going to be harassed. And I think beyond that, us connecting with UAE Pass to make sure that even like the sign up experience is secure and safe and approved was really important for us. Beyond that, like we always put in safeguards for if you do inquire about a specific property, for example, that it's your choice to either speak on the platform or to share your information as you please.
Because that's the most annoying thing though, isn't it? It's like, once your numbers, especially when it comes to real estate, and all sorts of people are calling you. Like I remember hearing from other people that that's a very big pain point. So the route that I took was just totally different because I didn't want my number to be out there. I just like wanted one person to deal with everything without me having to get a million calls a day, right? That person knows everything. They'll sort it out. They're probably getting all the calls a million times a day. But that's the most annoying part because, a lot of agents as well. I mean, to be honest, the real estate industry as a whole here, I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of cowboys, let's just say that, right? And it's like
Wild West out here.
Wild East, literally what is going on.
Absolutely.
Like it's crazy because they do a lot of stuff. They want to try get a lot more inquiries. They try to put things up there that, directly, they tell you that directly, as in, this is what I'm going to do, or this is what I'm thinking about doing, just to get inquiries. And it's all not real.
Yeah. And I think
Just
to be
fishing for
fair-
information and fishing for data and fishing for inquiries and
Yeah.
and things like that, which I just think is,
Because they're building out their databases. For them, it's also like a long-term thing of I need to just have a as big of a database as I can, so that future I can make as many sales as I need to make. And you'll see that a lot. And that was a lot of the struggles that we heard from people as well, of like, I'm asking for a 2-bedroom in Ream Island, for example, and they're taking me to Khalifa A, and they're taking me to look at villas that I'm not interested in seeing. But it's because everybody has different goals. And that was something we were kind of trying to erase as much as possible when we built that like transparent and own your own journey.
honesty as well, right? I mean, we see that happening in the recruitment industry as well. Recruiters and real estate agents, by the way, they get like
Very similar.
grouped into the same
Bucket.
they get grouped into the same bucket somehow,
Yep.
because recruitment as a whole as an industry has become very similar. As in, sometimes some recruiters, they send CVs without even telling the person that I'm sending your CV to this place, and they use CVs to get access, even though that person's not even looking for a new job, or so that's why I say to people as well, be very careful about the recruiter that you're using, because if you're sharing your CV and you're sharing your information, which could be quite private, with someone that you don't trust, you don't know where that information is landing and what is it being used for. And I just find it crazy, because here, I think especially in the UAE, people don't put a lot of emphasis on security, I think, as much as other places. Like, for example, here, anyone will ask you for your Emirates ID, and you'll just send them a picture of the Emirates ID or whatever. And it's just like, why do we do that? Like, why do we think that it's not, like, it's okay, like, to put your data out there? Like, I'm sure, like, in Canada or in the UK, or it'll be like, I'm not sending you that information. Like, why would I send you that information, right? So it's quite interesting, but I do think that it's going to change here. I think people are going to put a lot of emphasis on having their privacy.
Absolutely. And again, it's back to the empowering the user to make his own decisions when he's comfortable making those decisions. And those are, the use cases that we built on our AI, is let the user make his own decisions, let him understand, let him be comfortable. And then when he's ready to transact, he will be the judge of that.
Yeah, I think it's empowerment and also just education on what their rights are, what they should be looking out for, like making sure they're not sharing specific information. I think, like you said, people don't know what is okay to share and what's not here, because we do live in such a safe place and we haven't had that experience. When you talk about like in Canada or in the US or in the Western countries, they've dealt with fraud so much now that they have to be careful.
Like, it's really interesting. Like, in recruitment, one of those questions is kind of like asking someone their date of birth, right? Because as a recruiter, sometimes you need that information for registration purposes. Like, I need to know how old you are, because the corporate wants, or the company wants to know how old you are for whatever reason. There's multiple reasons for that. Understanding your marital status, because then that will affect your benefits and things like that, right? So these are all decisions that the company needs to make with all that information. But it's always very weird to ask a candidate, can you tell me your date of birth? And you'd be very surprised. Most people here, they'll just give it. But people that are relocating, sometimes they're like, why do you need that? I don't need to give you that information, right? And if you have like a really good relationship with that person, obviously they do share it. But that's why it's also, again, very important to deal with someone that you trust from that perspective. So it's quite interesting to see that.
Yeah, there's one thing that we also realized, that I think, back to your point about people sharing their information, and right now the medium of communication, most people, is WhatsApp. You'll share your passport.
Here in the UAE, by the way, anything WhatsApp done.
Send me your passport.
I swear to God, I have actually done a deal before entirely on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
As in, like, I was speaking to the client. I went and met the client. He sent me the job description on WhatsApp. I sent him the CVs on WhatsApp. I arranged all the interviews on WhatsApp. He sent me the offer on WhatsApp. I sent it back signed on WhatsApp, and then sent the invoice on WhatsApp. And he sent me the payment info and everything on WhatsApp. And it was done. It was all through WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Completely out of compliance with what I was supposed to do. But I was like uploading all the data into the system.
Think of it as an easy way. And that's how we're building Neuk, is making it extremely easy for you to gain access to this data, to share information comfortably, to make sure that it's secure. That's an important part of Neuk and what we're building in Neuk.
So obviously your journey took you through so many different things. You were saying, you redirected a lot. You moved, and added maybe a lot of things to the platform. I want to understand whether, and I'm sure a lot of people also listening to this want to understand, is this, set up just for corporates, or what can like individuals do as well? Can they access this platform individually, or does it have to be through their company?
They can access it as of now.
Yeah.
They can access it. That being said, the reason that we're so focused on corporate right now is because we found that it's kind of the urgent need. We found the most interest and the most kind of like expectation from the corporate employees, which is why that's what we're prioritizing. So as of now, anybody can access the platform. Down the line, the plan is obviously to focus purely on corporates. But with that being said, anybody who wants to access the platform will be able to request.
Corporate angle is, again, something like Leila said is very important because and you're in recruitment, so you probably know, but a lot of companies spend a lot of money on flights, visas, finding a place for people to stay for 2-3 weeks. But then that's when the difficult part starts, is after that kind of relocation support is done, is where do I go from here? And that's the gap that we're trying to fill, because it's a huge gap in the market.
Huge gap. I think also from our side, I mean, remembering that like we are a startup and we're constantly developing, like you said, our own platform. I think our experience with the corporate program has been super beneficial to the platform as well, because of some of the requests that we've gotten and because of the conversations that we've had with these employees. We've updated our own ways of working and our own services. So I think actually another good example of some of the requests that we've gotten from corporates is we had someone who was looking to relocate from the UAE to Riyadh in Saudi. And we at like Neuk technically we're operational in the UAE, and that's kind of our core priority. And so we have a relocation partner, but they are more focused on the UAE than they are anywhere else. So that was a moment where, like I said, you need that human interaction to say like, but I need support going to Riyadh. And Amro obviously did a lot of the heavy lifting on this and kind of did the research to see how we could support him in that move to Riyadh and how we could make sure that he kind of had the smoothest experience that he possibly could. And in that journey, we found a partner that does relocation internationally. And not only do they do relocation in terms of finding you a home and finding you a place, but they also do, it's like an onboarding to the city. And so they take the clients through the city. They kind of show them what it's like to live in that place and get them acquainted with the area. And so it was really nice for us, I think, just because they align so much with our ethos of like beyond housing, there's living, there's the experience, there's everything that comes.
You know what that just reminded me of? Like, whenever you go to an Airbnb, like in a new country, and then you've got like, I love it when they like leave this, of everything. And it's like, I don't even need to Google this. Like, I don't even need to see where's the closest cafe or where do I need to go for
the pamphlets, like the
binder.
Yeah, with everything you need to know about.
Ever open those binders?
Oh my God, I always do, because it's like
every time, because it tells you like the best cafe nearby. I think it's also like if it's like a more long-term like vacation that you're on, right? Where you're like, I'm gonna wake up in the morning and go get my coffee over here. Yeah. There's a park nearby that I'll take a bike ride. There's
even things like hospitals, there's like emergency stuff. And it's just like, you just know that book is like everything, like a guide to being in this house, like basically,
Exactly.
And I love those because,
so helpful.
I actually feel so good whenever I get into an Airbnb and it's like that, because you're just like, oh,
you're
wow,
comfortable, and anytime I think of something, I'll go in there. As simple as the Wi-Fi password setup, and like if the Wi-Fi isn't working, go press that button and reset. Like there's such small things that you're like, okay, it's good to know that I'm safe with this book.
Exactly. Whatever problem I have, it's in there, especially if it's like well thought of, right?
Exactly.
It's almost like someone went and lived in that place for a while and gone like, these are all the things that I would have liked to know for someone walking in through the door, right?
Exactly. So that's what this partner was. It's just kind of like beyond that experience, they're really giving you the full living experience. And so we took basically what one request from one corporate employee was, and we turned it into an actual partnership with that company, because it really just made a lot of sense for us. So now, while on the first round of that being a request, it may have needed much more human interaction and much more work from the Neuk team. Now it's something that's available for anybody that needs it.
Yeah.
So I think that's just also been a great experience of like really understanding that the work that we're doing is built from real feedback and from like a real need from the community.
What
which is
else?
The corporate program.
What else do you guys see coming up in the future? What else do you see, like expansion, new markets? I mean, I know you just spoke about like Riyadh. Like, is there anything like that on the books, or like what's the short term and long term plans?
It's all on the book.
I'd say short term, like maybe 6 to 12 months. We're looking at increasing the depth of our presence here in the UAE. And I think what we'll see is the corporate program being enrolled across different industries kind of more broadly. After that, I think will be the phase where we expand to the GCC markets, because those are challenges that GCC markets are also facing. So looking at Saudi, looking at Qatar, these are all markets that need this kind of service. So this is kind of from an expansion point of view, but from a depth point of view, right now, can't spill the beans, but there's a few fintech products that we're working on. Those fintech products have to do with what I mentioned earlier, which is managing your rental payment through monthly checks or more manageable chunks. In the US, Canada, and Europe, you pay rent on a monthly basis. Here, you pay one lump sum checks. So we're working on a solution for that. One solution that we're also working has to do with remittances. The first thing people think about when they move here and they're settled in is, how do I send money back home? And that's a solution that we're working on. And I think it's quite a unique solution. So those are kind of the short-term and long-term plans that we see. Now, in terms of our vision of the platform, I think that's why we don't call it just a housing platform. It's a housing and living platform. So we see ourselves as being, housing, a financial and lifestyle layer that sits within organizations, but it's not just a transactional service. So you're not just coming to find a home and that's it. Okay, bye. I'm done.
That's another part as well. Like most of these, like it's super transactional, right? It's like, I helped you do this, blah, blah. Okay, bye. That's it. Don't speak to me again unless you're looking to do it again or something like that. And yeah, that loses, like, I guess, the relationship part of it as well, right?
Yeah. So housing gets you in the door, but the services that we'll offer will be, you'll come to Neuk to avail all sorts of different services related to, fintech products, related to living, related to housing, questions that you have. Like the second moment, so the first moment was when someone asked me about the rent increase and I helped him solve it. And that felt, I was like, this is what Neuk was built for. The second experience was, okay, this can scale, which was the example that Leila mentioned, which is someone wanting to relocate from here to, that showed you the potential of what Neuk will be in the near future. So that's kind of, how I see us kind of growing over the next.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people that have been listening and, took a lot of like nuggets from what we just spoke about. And obviously, if there's anyone that's listening to this and needs help, make sure to reach out to these guys to get as much information as possible, because in all honesty, I think it's a game changer. I think it's a game changer, especially for corporates that, move a lot of people around, which is happening. And UAE is a very transient market. There's a lot of people that come here, they leave, they come back, and all sorts of stuff, right? And that's not going to change, especially with everything that's going on right now. It might decrease a little bit for the short term, but even for us, we're anticipating that we're going to have a lot of big flow of people coming in again in September onwards. And it's a market that thrives on global mobility. I'm sure that if there's people that are listening to this that had similar obstacles or challenges with moving or with their businesses, then, hopefully they can reach out to you and you can help them through this journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're excited to see where we go from here. And like I said, there's a lot on the books, but I think we also have no idea what's coming next. Just from the experience of the last year, I don't think we knew where we were going. We just went with it, and where we're at is great. So,
yeah. I'm excited to see that journey.
We're excited.
Yeah. No, look, it's been great to have you guys and understand a little bit more about the platform and, the things that you guys offer. And, I'm glad that we finally got this done and, recorded the podcast together. And maybe we'll do another one in like a year's time or something to see how things progressed and what you see in the market. And I'm actually planning to do like a 3-episode series around real estate. So for all our listeners, if you're really interested with what's going on in the market, stay tuned for the following episodes. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you for having us.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks for spending your time with us and being part of the Alchemy Uncensored community. And of course, a big thank you to Al-An for supporting this season and helping us bring these conversations to life. We'll be back soon with more insights and more voices from across the region.